is reality radio at its best. High on Dependency on I-95.5 FM.
Yeah, all right.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Dependency right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And welcome once again, folks. This morning we have a packed program for you as usual, and those of you who are familiar with or who are serving or retired, this program is for you this morning and your families. We will be speaking with the newly minted military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. And let me just clarify one time immediately. Some people, and I can't believe this question ever happened in this country, but someone asked, why do they call them veterans when they have not fought in a war? So let me give you the definition of veteran before we go forward. A former member of the armed forces, an old soldier, sailor, a guardsman, you name it, or a person of long experience, usually in some occupation or skill. So this is why we use the term veteran politician, veteran massman, veteran calypsonian. They never fought in any war, but they're called veterans. So let's get that out of the way immediately. This morning we'll be speaking with retired Sergeant Trisha Monteith, retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and retired Major D. Fletcher. And as we introduce them, you bring them up on the screen so that you will see these folks and what they look like. And after years of service, they still look fresh and clean and fit. So we start with the bio of Sergeant Trisha Monteith, who's a veteran of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment with over 21 years service, an advocate for enhancing the lives of veterans and their families. Ms. Monteith holds a BA in Social Work and MA in Counseling Psychology from the Caribbean Nazarene College, Santa Cruz. She has worked in the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force Training Division and Welfare Department as Group Health Insurance Administrator and is trained as HIV tester and counselor. She has worked with clients of the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service, Probation Service Division, Family Court Services, community-based organizations, and most recently with the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service as counselor admin at the National Male Transition Home. Ms. Monteith is the Director of Welfare and Wellness with the military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. That bugle call again.
Retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas. He was born on October 29th, 1947. He's educated at El Socorro North Government Primary School and St. George's College. He enlisted in the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard in 1969. He trained as an armorer gunner. He has been a weapons and drill instructor, seamanship instructor. He commenced youth training in 1979 at the School for the Deaf, St. Jude's School for Girls, Boy Scouts Association, Sea Scouts, and the Trinidad and Tobago Cadet Force. He did leadership training in 1982 aboard HMS Royal Arthur in England, and he acquired a diploma in management studies at the Joint Services Staff College in Port of Spain in 1985. He retired from the Defense Force in 1997 and went on to secure diplomas in Security Administration and Management and in Occupational Health and Safety. In 2000, he was the Regional Manager Northeast of the Civilian Conservation Corps, and in 2007, he was a seamanship lecturer at the Caribbean Fisheries Training and Development Institute.
Major Peter D. Fletcher, ED, MBA, BSc, PJSC. Born 12th May 1968. He's married. Education 2013, BSc Leadership and Management, UW St. Augustine. 2015, MBA, and Angela Ruskin University. Military appointments includes Detachment Commander, Tobago Battalion Commander, 2nd in Command, 1996. Platoon Commander, Exercise Trade Winds, Puerto Rico, 2003. Operations Officer, IATF, 2006 to 2008. Aide-de-camp to Acting Presidents of Trinidad and Tobago, 2009. Caribbean Contingent Commander, Emergency Operations, Vinci Pac, St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2009. Acting Commanding Officer, 1st Engineering Battalion, Support and Services Battalion, 1st Infantry Battalion in 2011. Comptroller of Household, President's House, 2012. Commanding Officer, 2nd Infantry Battalion. Military decorations include 1990 Defense of Democracy Medal, Efficiency Decoration for 18 years Distinguished Commission Service, 2012 50th Anniversary of Independence Medal. And this is an abbreviated version of the Major's bio. If you have to go through all of it, nobody will get a chance to contribute. He has an extensive bio, but we welcome all of them. We have all of them up on screen now. Well, and everybody showing a good turnout. And we say welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for spending your morning with us. And of course, updating Trinidad and Tobago on the Military Veterans Association of Trinidad, Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. And Major Fleet Sergeant, can you hear us? They say good morning.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Good morning. I can hear you.
All right, Major.
I can hear you.
Yes,
Right.
Pleasant good morning. Pleasant good morning to the citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and all those listening on the World Wide Web. Pleasant good morning.
Fleet, can you hear us? You're still
Yes,
having
I
some
am
issues.
hearing you.
You hearing? Okay. We're not seeing you on screen, so we hope that is corrected soon. And so, folks, we have a lot to cover this morning. And first of all, we like to, you heard that bugle call, and this is where we'll ask. Now, this call was created by two members of the Regiment Corps of Drums. They are 11499 Lance Corporal Belcon D and 11937 Lance Corporal Simon M, to pay homage to those who served before. The name of the call is A Tribute to the Veterans. It was first sounded at the 6th Drumhead Ceremony of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment on Monday, 22nd November 2001 at Tetron Barracks, and thus became the official call of the veterans. So just wanted to get that out there so you all can understand what you heard this morning. And we have lots of questions for these folks, and we again ask that you keep the answers short and sharp so that we can get through all of them, because we have lots of questions, and praying that you all can answer all of them, if not most of them. But thank you once again. So we start with Sergeant Patricia Monteith.
Well, let's start first with the insignia, the logo of the organization. Let's put that back up short, man, so that Ms. Monteith can describe to us what is the significance of all of the elements of the logo and of the organization and why it started.
I think we could ask the Major to.
Or the Major, you
Yes.
can, yes.
Major, can you tell the public about your logo? This is your new logo, folks, and those of you on radio, the Major will describe it for you. But Major, over to you.
We look at the red, black, and white. You look at the stripes running horizontal on your screen there. That represents the parade square, which each and every veteran would have had the opportunity to traverse at some point within their military career. We look at the sea, the deep blue sea at the bottom. It represents that represents the aspect of the sea and the Coast Guard element. We look at the green hills that treats with the Army part of it, the regiment aspect of it, and deals with our aspirations for the future. And we look at the light blue. So you have a mix between deep blue and light blue. That's the sky. One would represent the Coast Guard more than one, and the Air Guard. And you have the bugle. We all know what the bugle is all about in the Army, and then they have the pipe for the Coast Guard. I hope I covered it. And then you see the V, although the arrow, you see an arrow to what will be probably, it's on my right. That speaks to our aspirations of moving this veterans movement higher at this time. As you said, see the watchwords at the bottom, old habits won't take you to new heights. And we now seeking to take the veteran movement to new heights with the assistance of all veterans.
All right. And if you can briefly, for us, Major, just explain the reason why you felt an organization of this kind was needed at this time.
When you look around, even out of the pandemic, a number of people are going through periods of crisis in their lives in one way or another. There are especially veterans who are challenged, those who are incapacitated in one way. We have to reach out. We have to reach out to first our veterans and then the citizens of this country. Because when I look around, I ask myself, what can my country do for me? But first I said, hey, what can I do for my country? If we are to make an impression in this country, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to look at the man in the mirror and treat our neighbors like ourselves. We need to love our neighbors, love our fellow man, right? And that level of togetherness, together we aspire, together we will achieve. So that is why it's so necessary to actually launch the military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago coming out of another group. So we have an amalgamation of 4 different veteran bodies coming together because we know unity is strength and we like to move together, empowering all veterans, but moving as one.
All right. Thank you very much, Major. If you're just joining us, folks, you're listening to Dependency, and we're going to have a conversation this morning with retired Sergeant Patricia Monteith, retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and retired Major Peter D. Fletcher about the military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. So let's go straight to Sergeant Monteith. Sergeant Monteith, is the military veteran of Trinidad and Tobago inclusive of veterans' families as well?
Yes, we are inclusive of veterans' family.
Right. Now, speaking of families, like, let's say it's like serving or retired military member families, the families also feel the impacts of the profession. What are the plans of intervention for family members who will now see now we use a term in the military called damaged. Right? Retirees more than often, they see them now when they retire, they see them more than often. And in some instances, some of them even have a reduced pension. How we treat them with that?
Well, definitely, we do have a therapeutic intervention. We have a group currently being organized, a therapeutic team to deal with any issue that may come up in terms of counseling and therapy. And also, we also have a Chamber of Artisan and Commerce that was launched on the February the 2nd that will treat with veterans who may have left and are frustrated because of no employment or nothing to look forward to or that kind of thing. We have a Chamber of Artisan and Commerce that was recently launched, and that will be also a form of therapy because they would feel comforted in knowing that they have something to, get money, have finance, and help their homes.
Now, before let me just throw this in. The families especially, there are times, and I hope at some point we can do a couple programs on this. There are people who sign on, or the families don't understand that when a family member, especially a husband or a wife, signs on the dotted line to be a part of the protective service, so in this case here, the defense force, they too become part of the work, and some say they understand, and when the pressure is turned on, some of them start calling camp, why my husband at home, why my son ain't come home for 2 days. And how do you plan to educate families further on the exigencies of the service?
Yes, we do plan to work hand in hand with the Defense Force. We also have a lot of things on the table currently. However, the first line for enlisted people is the Defense Force, and we don't intend, to step in their way or, run to front to do stuff, right? But if we are asked to assist in any way, we will.
So, what kinds of interventions then can you provide for members in situations where they are undergoing distress, or they have retired, or they're preparing for retirement? What kind of intervention can MVOCT provide?
Right. Um, as it relates to preparing for retirement, when they are preparing for retirement, that means that they are still within the service. So their first line would be the Defense Force. However, we would still be able to assist in terms of, helping them therapeutically if they are not understanding, that they soon will be cut off from Defense Force. That in itself is a loss, right? And at times, some people could grieve, right? So we could give therapy to them in terms of that grief and that loss, because up to recently, I've known a batch of mine who went through that kind of loss, and he couldn't understand that he gave his all to the Defense Force, and then now here he is. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have any civilian friends, and he doesn't know what to do. He's lost. And people may think that, hey, that's a joking or whatever, but it was real and it was serious. And we need to deal with it. We need to treat with it. And MBOT is saying that we are here to lend a hand, and we are willing to give assistance.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with retired Sergeant Trisha Monteith, Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and Major Peter D. Fletcher about the military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. They're taking us through the paces of this veterans unit, and we're speaking with retired Sergeant Trisha Monteith. Now, how will MVOT directly impact, because I realize that you all are expanding the communities as well, and that's a good thing. How do you all plan to impact communities?
Right.
Could I have this one?
Sorry?
Go ahead, Tricia.
Yes, Aunt, go ahead.
All right. We also have in our plans to do community caravans, to do workshops, health fairs, to do cleanup campaigns. And the cleanup campaigns will help to bring the communities together and have it as a kind of fun thing, competition between regions. And we in this we are looking to see to partner with the EMA and get them on board so that it will be a countrywide something. And this is important because veterans live in each community of Trinidad and Tobago, and so we cannot um, pretend that we just helping veterans and we don't seek to assist um, the communities as well who are not veterans, right? So not in a bubble, and we know that, and we also intend to assist where we can in terms of community development.
No, no, Sant,
If I may add to that,
sure, Major.
we have divided Trinidad and Tobago into chapters, mirroring the regional corporations and Tobago. That way we'll have the reach throughout. So I just wanted to give clarity to our structure. So we'll have teams in every region, and we'll be feeding information, resources into those teams. We'll be seeking to have strategic partnerships with stakeholders so as to advance our reach in the communities. So we'll be doing community-related projects, assisting them, working alongside. That way, we'll get a better understanding of what goes on in the communities. We'll be seeking to win hearts and minds. We'll have invaluable information that we could share with other stakeholders that could cause Trinidad and Tobago to be much more successful than it is right now.
Right. Well, Sant, you know, as a career woman, yourself from the military, as a female, what are some of the career options available under the MVOT?
The career opportunities under the MVOT. Well, we have a lot of portfolios under the MVOT. We have administrative, logistics, finance, veterans affairs, communication, and we also have a training academy. So there are many things that a female could get involved in under the MVOT. And we are using this as a call to get more people to come on board, more veterans to come on board, right? And this doesn't mean that we don't or we won't take assistance from people who aren't veterans. By no means, that's not what we're saying. But we also looking for veterans to be able to come on board because it will be, and it is, veterans assisting veterans. We are not looking for handouts that say that we're sitting down and we just waiting for everybody to do everything else for us. No, we are willing to do the work. We are willing to be the ones in front, right, leading, but we also need veterans to come out.
Right. And I guess you spoke about the SET Academy, which is the Standardization, Evaluation, and Training, which we speak to Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Thomas is the president of the Trinity Community Council, and of course the major is the PRO. So we'll speak to them more about that of the SET Academy. Sergeant, finally, before we go over to Fleet Thomas, so I guess, you know, as a retired sergeant in the women's arm, you will still have relationship. So you would with a lot of past and present women who are serving and who retired. So I guess you'll be reaching out to them, or you have been reaching out to them to be part of the association.
Yes.
The MVOT. Have you?
Yes, I have.
Right. And because it would be nice. It would be nice to see more women get involved because of the veterans associations I'm familiar with. Not they don't have many women, former members in the fold. So I hope that MPOT could make a difference where that is concerned.
We have begun to make a difference. We already, myself and 2 other females are on board already, and we're seeking to get a little more on board as well, and we will accomplish that.
Roger that. All right, folks, so let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll be speaking with Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, retired, someone who I've worked alongside myself, and I know as a very, very serious man and serious individual, very focused, and some say he's too serious. But, we're going to be speaking with him, and you can join us on I-95.5 if you're welcome. You can also join us on the Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Stay right there. We have lots more for you. We'll be back.
Cappy, talk to you now, boy. About a small work for you to do. You make a quick 10 G's. We're going to do from
10 G's? Where's that how I do this, boy?
what you doing? Taking your boat, going up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That's something like human trafficking, boy. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They are essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Eye on Dependency will be a morning show in 2022.
That's right. On Dependency marks 20 years on the air. We're taking our groundbreaking brand of radio to a whole new audience. From the team that took you inside prisons in the UK.
I was being held in charge for conspiracy to import cocaine into the UK.
We spoke with men and women who have paid for their crimes.
They didn't tell me if I bring him back and I get catch, I'll get 14 years imprisonment. They didn't say that.
We brought you the glamour of feature film.
I do have a package to drop off in Trinidad.
For you, Alejandro, anything.
I will pay you each 5,000 euros.
And the squalor of death row.
It's a common policy for my kids in the High Court in Port of Spain, and it was in common when you get an pin from the gate.
And of course, the testimonies of men and women with drug use disorders.
I was quite devastated and got involved with the wrong company.
The man who I used to deal with, he gave me a job to drive him around just to go and buy cocaine and smoke cocaine.
From Toronto to London, New York to Los Angeles, Scarborough to Point Fortin, and everywhere in between, Eye on Dependency has been your source for drug information. Join us as we move to Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Don't miss Eye on Dependency. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch the live stream on Facebook and YouTube. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories. We change lives. We change lives.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays, at 10 a.m., and exclusively, on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live, on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page, and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and this morning we are speaking with executives of the Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a new organization specifically for former serving members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, i.e. the named veterans. We want to continue the conversation with FCPU Fleet Chief Cecil Thomas, retired, to tell us a bit more about the SET Academy, the Standardization, Evaluation and Training Academy. What is that?
Morning to you, Fleet. Welcome to Independency. And tell us what is set.
And by extension, the entire Trinidad and Tobago. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome, sir. Go ahead. Tell us about the SET Academy first.
All right. The Standardization, Evaluation, and Training Academy is that arm of the MVOT who sees it as critical that the young members of the community participate in economic activity within their community. Through these efforts, we hope to optimize employment opportunities, empower communities by improving its skills, capabilities, and awareness of its members. We want to have young people actively participating in this transformation. We also aim to promote knowledge and practice towards coastal protection. We also encourage leadership and management among young persons so that their actions will inspire confidence, because that is what leadership is all about. We are lacking that in Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time. We also aim to identify business opportunities in the field of fisheries and marine resource management.
Now, gentlemen, before we go on, Major, could you ask your communications person to log on to our Facebook page? We have some questions popping up for you all, and maybe they can answer it while we go, because we have some, at least we started one person already asking questions, and I suspect there'll be more to find out more about MVOT. So could you ask the person to join the Independency Facebook page so they can answer some questions, all right, while we move along. Morning to you, Gary Garcia. Thank you very much. And other veterans who are on the live right now, thank you very much for joining us and listening to the conversation. Now, Fleet, is there a target group identified for this training that you spoke about?
Yes, the target group identified for the training are young persons between the ages of 16 and 30 years old in all communities. But we will be targeting the rural communities first, because they are the most disadvantaged group with the highest rate of unemployment and the lowest rate of education in Trinidad and Tobago. So we want to give them an opportunity to take part in the economic activity in Trinidad and Tobago and raise their standard of living.
You're taking on a very, very heavy task, Fleet, and I mean, we really wish you all the best, but this is a serious undertaking that we're speaking about here.
So is there a cost attached to training with this academy, and how do you cover the cost of delivering this training?
Oh, all right. In the first instance, there'll be no cost because it's a pilot project. We'll be taking some young people and training them and getting a feel of how the persons in these communities will accept the training. and then tailor it to suit the exact educational qualifications and standards of these young persons. After this, we will be able to, at that point in time, to have a one-on-one conversation with these young people who have opted to come to the course. They will tell us firsthand what their needs are. So our training will be tailored directly to suit the needs of these communities and not hoping to and feeling what we feel that these communities need.
And the format
So
now.
right,
Sorry, go ahead.
Right now, there's no cost, but definitely a cost will be attached a little later on when we get the whole thing going and dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
Right, understood. Now the format for these courses, what format will it take?
Right, the format for these courses, we will be doing each one of the courses in modules. And each module will be a certain amount of contact hours. And coming out of these modules, we will be dealing with our strategic partners in the various ministries, national security, and other ministries. And we will be liaising with them so that they can provide some of the personnel to assist in the presentation of these courses.
So if I live
in that way.
So yes, sorry, but we have a kind of delay, so sorry about that. But so if I want to learn, let's say, how to do different ties and rope and all these kind of things, you all will provide that. I mean, as a sailor, you can actually hold an entire course of different knots and how to tie rope and nets and all these different things. That part of it too?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will be doing all of that. One of the modules will be knots, bends, and hitches. In our standardization situation, we want to have a standard way of doing things. We want to have the fishermen and all other people in Trinidad and Tobago, young persons, who have to deal with that area of expertise to be able to do it and be able to teach it. Lots of persons do not know how to teach someone to tie a knot. So what we will be doing is teaching you to tie the knot, you being able to tie it, we will be able to tell you how to teach how to tie this knot. And in that way, pass on information to the younger people. Because lots of fishermen and other folks do not know, it has been my experience, do not know, not even the name of the knot.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the other courses or some of the courses that will be available at the SCT Academy?
Right. Some of the courses offered are one, leadership as opposed to management, but we will have some little aspects of management in it. Coastal navigation, where we have had quite a lot of people who are going out to sea in vessels, and they are going out there unprepared, and that is causing a problem for the Coast Guard. And we find that people are being lost at sea. The people at home do not know where they are going to fish, what time they left and what time they are coming back, the amount of persons on board, what kind of and what is the exact nature of the distress. So we intend to pass on these bits and pieces of information so that to minimize the incidence of people being lost at sea by having proper preparation before going to sea.
Yes, I've always
But
wondered
that goes
about
for
that.
other things.
Yeah, we've always wondered about that. Why is it that our fishermen always find themselves in these difficulties? And so this is a welcome. I know National Security Ministry had initiated some training, some level of training. Some of them refused to show up, but I know this ministry will accept all the help it can get, and especially with people with your experience, I'm sure you'll be well placed in this regard, because we've had too many incidents of this happen. People getting lost at sea, and one. Thing it should be mandate. Don't understand the importance of this, so I'm sure that will be welcome. If you're just joining us, folks, here's what's happening. We are speaking with the executive of the Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago, retired Sergeant Tricia Monteith, retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and retired Major Peter D. Fletcher. And they will hear from the Major in a moment.
And before we do, I just wanted to add that seafaring skills, yes. Also, I don't know what you call it, but landfaring skills would be very useful for the general public as well, because we often hear about hikers going missing in the forest, and those are the kinds of skills that soldiers are trained for and know how to do very well. So that kind of imparting of that kind of knowledge would be useful as well. How to survive in the jungle.
Yeah, we plan to do all of that, including map reading and all that.
Yes.
So that people won't get lost outside there. And I should add that when somebody is lost in the forest, we have quite a lot of veterans who are very knowledgeable about the forested areas of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yep.
And I don't see them being asked to participate. A lot of them would like to participate in these exercises. However, for whatever reason, they are not approached. But now that we have MVOT, and there's somewhere that the persons can lodge their complaints or information, then we see something happening. Because we see MVOT as the game changer in Trinidad and Tobago right now.
Well, I was just about to say that, Fleet. This is an excellent thought you just an excellent idea you just brought to the fore. But just as there exists the hunters, I think the Hunters Association, they have formed themselves into a group. I guess the former members who are now veterans and who are familiar with the terrain that we call the jungle can also maybe form themselves into an organization like that too, so that they are a meeting between the hunters and military veterans. You know where I'm going to call first. So maybe, go ahead.
We do have hunters, we do have veterans who are part of that Hunters Association.
Okay.
So that's another avenue for partnership.
Lovely. All right, so Major?
Yes, Major. Welcome
Thank
back.
you, Fleet. Thank you, Fleet. Chief Petty Officer, retired Cecil Thomas. We'll keep you on, and of course, we'll have an open for anything you, the Sergeant, and of course, when you finish with the Major, would like to add to the conversation, because I'm sure Sergeant Monteith will have more to add as we go along. Welcome, Major Fletcher.
Again.
Thank you.
So the first question has to do with discharge and how persons can get their discharge certificate if one was not issued upon completion of their service.
Okay. There's a quite capable Veterans Affairs Office at the Welfare Department, which is on 18 to 20 London Street in Port of Spain. You go there and you give particular bits of information. Remember, this might go back quite a number of years where the serving members may not even know, but the person requesting that discharge certificate will have to solicit the assistance of other members who would have served with them who could vouch for their service and or actually provide information to support certain things which will be placed in their discharge certificate, right? But the Defense Force is working arduously to correct those things and ensure every veteran has a discharge certificate would have served.
Yes. And the ID card as well. Can persons still get their veterans ID card after completing service after more than 10 years out of the service?
Even before that, however, but I must state, there's a very strict criteria placed by the Defense Force for obvious reasons, and that information you will also be able to get from the Veterans Office at London Street. There's a P.O. Rivers there, quite an astute gentleman who is just willing to assist veterans when they get there.
All right. The next question has to do with the pension, which is a grievous issue for many veterans, I know. Where is the pension office located? And is it aligned to the welfare office?
The pension office is still located in Chagaramas, and I am not certain if it is aligned. However, the Defense Force persons could speak to that for the job standpoint. I don't have much information where that is concerned. They will have to speak to that.
Right. So as far as you're aware, those issues to do with one's pension need to be ventilated directly with the Defense Force.
Yeah, but we still have to journey down to Chagaramas to treat with pension issues.
Right.
We would really like the day when we could see the pensions office located somewhere in Port of Spain. Because remember, we have veterans who are incapacitated.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know it's the heart of the Chief of Defense Staff to improve the lives of veterans. So probably I'm unaware it's in the pipeline. It hasn't been made knowledgeable to us just yet. But I guess sometime in the not too distant future, we'll be welcoming the news to hear that the pensions office is at some convenient centralized location where all veterans could access it, taking into consideration the veterans who are incapacitated and who are differently abled at this time.
Yes, very important consideration. Maybe in the future as well, MVOT can act as a sort of liaison, reaching out to those veterans who are incapacitated or disabled for whatever reason and relay that information. Maybe you can act as a sort of a mediator.
Definitely, we have already started and we intend to continue. And I'll give you one example. At our headquarters at Campus House in St. Augustine, there's a liaison person who actually collects the pension slips. However, the particular veteran must give us that authorization, and we then write to the welfare department, because a man's pension slip or a service person's pension slip is quite a confidential piece of information, and we could only act when we get their authorization, collect it on their behalf, and bring it to the headquarters in St. Augustine, where they could always pass and collect it there.
Yes.
Right? And that information could be fed to us via our email, which is mvot21@gmail.com, or our old email, which we are transitioning from at this time, ttdfv01@gmail.com.
All right. Someone is actually asking online. I'm not sure which document she's referring to, but she probably, I want to believe it's the discharge certificate. Because she says she don't think her husband ever got one, so she was inquiring as to what it looks like. Could you help us with that, or help her with that?
It's depending. The non-commissioned officers, and I will relate to the regiment here. They received, it's a black book with the information contained within in approximately 8 to 9 pages. For the commissioned officers, it's a red book.
All right.
Okay, that carries all your service information, your decorations, your accomplishments, everything.
Yes. Okay. Well, I hope that answers your question, Miss Pear.
And I see we have the communication person, Dominic Taylor, on the feed. So thanks very much, ma'am, for joining and answering some of the questions here for folks.
So moving on, how does MVOT as a new NGO and your non-profit organization, how do you intend to sustain your existence? Is it through donations, fundraising? How do you intend to sustain yourselves?
But all of the above, but permit me to just provide a bit more detail. We recently launched the Chamber of Commerce and Artisans, where we have the business persons, veterans who own businesses, and I will give you an example. It's quite extensive. We have veterans who are part owners of funeral homes, homes for the elderly, and a number of different types of businesses. Those businesses, we're drawing up an MOU, and they will contribute in a small way financially. I will give you an example. The artisans, the tradesmen, we will provide a list for all of Trinidad and Tobago to know we have skilled artisans here who you could trust in your domicile, in your homes, to come in and perform different tasks of repairs and so on, and even services like plumbing and so on, masonry. And they will receive 85% of what that particular job costs, and 15% will go for administrative purposes. Because we'll be doing assistant veterans with things like wills, resumes. So we'll have to purchase ink, paper, envelopes, the normal administrative and stationery stuff, right? But the thing is, we're not charging a membership fee per se right now. However, we'll be producing an ID card, a discount card, and a membership all in one card. The initial issue is going to cost $150, and I'm going to break it down for you. $30 out of that goes for administration, and that card will be valid for 2 years. So the veteran will be paying approximately $5 per month. And when we start generating funds, remember, we are not for profit. Anything we receive goes back into improving the life of veterans and even members of the community and their families, because there's a spousal arm that Sergeant Monteith is going to speak to at some point in time. If there's any more questions to deal with the spousal arm was launched in November of last year, and she'll speak to the issues surrounding that.
Yes, I have more questions about that one because it's a serious thing.
Yes.
It's something that people in Trinidad and Tobago really don't understand, the domino effect when someone signs on to the protective service. We have more questions at later on. And
God, you know what happens where that is concerned. When there's a crisis in the country, you find service personnel running to their place of duty while civilians are running home.
Yes,
so
yes.
The impact it have on that, on spouses, both male and female.
And even retired ones too. When the retired ones decide to, they want to be part, they want to run to a camp to their family. We ask them, but you're not on strength no more. You leave the work already. Where you're going? Yeah. They don't understand. So I guess we'll have to help them to understand that this morning.
God, in law, there's a 3-year period after you leave the service, which you could be called back after that. And all veterans are still willing to assist the state if called upon to do so at any time.
Yes, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. folks, if you're just joining us, remember you can join us on 2 platforms apart from the radio. You can jump in here at Independency's Facebook page, or look for us on the YouTube channel, Independency. We are speaking with retired Sergeant Trisha Monteith, retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and retired Major Peter D. Fletcher of the Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are fielding some questions to them. Hope you're getting the answers you need so far.
I just have one more question.
Retired Major Trinidad and Tobago.
Gart, if I may continue on the issue of ID cards,
yeah.
we wanted to inform the general public that all servicemen who served in the West India Regiment and came over to the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force in 1962, right up until December 1969, all of them who are still alive will be issued free ID cards. And at this time, I would like to say, gentlemen, because all gentlemen, thank you for your service.
All right. And remind you, Mr. Thomas, and you hope your mics are muted. We're getting a little repeat or delay or something like that. So just ensure that your mics are muted, please.
So by having different veterans leagues or associations, how is the management of MVOT selected, and can names from each of these other associations be submitted for selection? How is the organization managed in that way?
Okay. MVOT right now comprises 4 veteran bodies: the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard Retirees, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force Ex-Servicemen Association, Port of Spain, the Trinidad and Tobago Veterans USA Chapter 22, that recently was rebranded to, and there's the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force Non-Aligned Veterans. That group is the veterans who are not aligned to any of the organized groups there. So they've all come under one umbrella unit to provide the strength and support required to change the game in this season going forward, to bring meaningful change to this lovely republic of ours.
No, Major, there's something that always bothered me, and now that you call out these other associations here, I always wondered, we spoke to a former Marine yesterday. Somebody will be speaking with next Sunday, please God, on a different topic. But I asked a couple of questions about their veterans. Of course, they would have the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Marines. They all have Veterans Association. But we have the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. And we have Coast Guard, now Air Guard, Regiment, Reserves. Wouldn't it be more powerful force if we just had the Trinidad and Tobago Armed Forces? Well, I knew of the Trinidad and Tobago Armed Forces Veteran Association in the beginning. That was the first veteran association on the ground here. But now we have several. Isn't this kind of counterproductive that we served under the same colors, but yet, we have different associations?
Representing bodies.
Wouldn't it be more powerful to have everybody under one umbrella?
We'd love to have everybody under one umbrella, but there's one other group who's on a registered NGO. So the arrangement coming through that will be contractual, supported by a memorandum of understanding. However, as I said early on, they are the non-aligned veterans. So the veterans who are not aligned anywhere. The Air Guard is a formation of recent vintage. So all those members who are retiring from there, they have the choice to choose anyone. However, the MVOT saw it fit to merge all these organizations. However, they are still entitled to carry out their individual activities. For example, JTUM, the Joint Trade Union Movement, you have many trade unions under that one heading. So, as I said, together we will continue to aspire and together we'll achieve. But as long as they see the value being brought to the table for that oneness, for that unity of movement, I'm very optimistic about the future where that is concerned. Very.
Yeah, just before you go on, Garth, I think the difference with the United States system is that they have a Department of Veterans Affairs. They have an entire, as in our context, a ministry that deals with Veterans Affairs. And we are not yet at that stage, at that level, but perhaps in the future we might get there. But until that happens, I agree with you that an umbrella body or a single body might be more useful, but I guess until we get to the level of the state being responsible for Veterans Affairs, we have to do what we can.
We'll be seeking to take a proposal to the stakeholders at state level to ensure that we have proper representation. That is actually going to make governance of this state, this Twin Island state, much easier.
Because
so when the government realizes the untapped resources that exist in the country, Gat, I want you to understand this thing. The world was once ruled by those who have. The world is now ruled by those who know. It's a knowledge-based world. So they don't have a full knowledge of what expertise exists out there. Within the veteran movement, we have people with doctorates in sports medicine, linguistics, and so on. That is why we are seeking to expand our skilled and service base to provide that level of service to the country. You can't use what you don't know about.
No, Major, stick up in a minute. You see, and this is what makes it tricky. I remember doing what you call a paper and submitting it to at the time was Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Dillon. And one of the suggestions I made was to have serving members. Because when we spoke to the Marine yesterday, the former Marine yesterday, they told us that serving and retired are required or asked to make a yearly contribution to the Veterans Association. No. One of the things I suggested was that why not ask serving members to donate or contribute, let's say, even when they're serving, $10 a month from their salary, let's say $20. That goes to a Veterans Association. And in this regard, even though they are not retired as yet, they would still have opportunity to access the grocery, sports club, credit union, unit, because they're contributing while they're serving. Because at some point in time, everybody will become a veteran. And I think that will be lost now because of so many arms and so many different associations. It's unfortunate, but we could have had that situation where contributions could have been coming from serving members as well, directly to our Veterans Association, and again would have made it more powerful. But
that isn't lost. The MVOT has taken that into consideration. So even though there are other arms, there's the spousal arm within the MVOT, where veterans from other groups and even serving members we are actually catering for to actually build that spousal spirit within the service person, to have your spouse supporting you even after you leave actual active service. So when we're looking at those cards that I spoke to before, a spouse of a veteran in any arm could seek to get one of those cards, because we are having corporate Trinidad and Tobago offer us discounts in the different businesses, even the veterans businesses. So we actually going to be doing a booklet with all the different businesses and the services they offer and the discounts to be derived. And we don't want any veteran to miss out. So if the laws or your constitution prevents you from being a member of the MVOT, your spouse is free to join the spousal arm of MVOT and reap the benefits, because we are not a selfish body. We wish to share with all veterans. We see our membership as all veterans, regardless of what body you might legally belong to. You would have served. and we respect your service. That is why we're extending it to spouses. So where there may be implications, we have ways and means of getting around that because spouses are part of the lives of these veterans.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are having a conversation with the executive of the Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to take a quick break. I'm not returning. We have more questions for them. Stay right there. Remember, you can join us on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. We have lots more questions, including see Mr. Rex Vidali has been sending in some questions. We'll throw that in at the end of what we have here for the lady and gentlemen. Folks, you're listening to Dependency. We'll be back.
On Dependency will be a morning show in 2022.
That's right. On Dependency marks 20 years on the air. We're taking our groundbreaking brand of radio to a whole new audience. From the team that took you inside prisons in the UK.
I was being held and charged for conspiracy to import cocaine into the UK.
We spoke with men and women who have paid for their crimes.
They didn't tell me if I bring him back and I get catch, I'll get 14 years imprisonment. They didn't say that.
We brought you the glamour of feature film.
I do have a package to drop off in Trinidad.
For you, Alejandro, anything.
I will pay you each 5,000 euros.
And the squalor of death row.
I said come in person from a case in the High Court in Port of Spain, and it was in come and get and pin from the gate.
And of course, the testimonies of men and women with drug use disorders.
I was quite devastated and got involved with the wrong company.
The man who I used to deal with, he gave me a job to drive him around. That's to go and buy cocaine and smoke cocaine.
From Toronto to London, New York to Los Angeles, Scarborough to Point Fortin, and everywhere in between, On Dependency has been your source for drug information. Join us as we move to Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Don't miss On Dependency. Listen live on 95.5 FM or watch the live stream on Facebook and YouTube. On Dependency. We don't just share stories. We change lives. We change lives.
Listen now, has noticed something out. There new people in about Bureau Day. Where's that? Girl, the man is passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman.
You really notice some woman living there, you know. And they can't even say as much as good morning.
Well, listen now, I wonder if it's human trafficking. You think it's that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
With Garth. On Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the On Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Staying with us. This is On Dependency, and again we are speaking with executive members of the Military Veterans of Trinidad and Tobago, and right now we are engaging with Major Peter Fletcher and continuing our questions for him. And starting back, we have been in a global pandemic for the last 2 years, and we all know of how the impact this has had on our personal lives, on our professional lives, and on the economies of our countries, and the cost of living has skyrocketed. Are there any strategies that you have come up with as a group to address the specific challenges that veterans face in this regard?
Yes, and we looked at what is available. We have a serious challenge in the country right now with our food import bill. We are seeking to promote heavily buy local, to get involved in agricultural projects, seek the assistance of NEDCO for incubator businesses to go to work alongside the Chamber of Commerce and Artisans. We will be speaking to expand on the unconventional forms of employment. People don't pay much attention. If we don't have certain things coming in, for those of us who were around in 1986, when the food import bill was slashed under the NAR government, people became innovative. We saw guava cheese coming back. I went to the Blue Food Festival. I had dashing ice cream. Things like that we're seeking to promote. The Tobago model needs to be expanded in Trinidad a bit to treat with the food import bill. I know we have really developed expensive tastes for food imported into the country, but if we are going to sustain ourselves and provide that level of food security that is really required, we will be pushing into it a lot. And we see it as an opportunity to also mentor the youths, having veterans working side by side with the youth, sharing life experiences, which I'll speak to a little later on as one of our proposed strategic partners, the National PTA. We say we have a youth problem in the country. I don't see it as a youth problem. We have a parenting challenge in the country. So when you bring all stakeholders to the table together, the parents, the teachers, the youth, and the mentors, veterans, because right now in the school system, you have approximately 85% of the tutors and teachers are female. Where is the male figure? We are willing to step up to the table as veterans and stand in the gap. The Ministry of Education gets the largest piece of the pie in the national budget. I have served as vice president and president of my school's alumni. I've looked at something called the National School Board. I've examined the Ministry of Education need to re-examine that and its effectiveness and seek to incorporate the use of veterans, both male and female. Why send a student home on suspension when he's exposed to the elements again? He's at greater risk. Invest some of that money in having mentors come and work with them on the school compound there. You'll realize a lot of the services that the schools request from the serving soldiers will be able to be taught during those periods that you have a mentor working alongside with the safety officer of the school. Rest assured, it will be a very profitable investment for this country. But yet again, we have to explore it. We have to look at it. We need to think outside the box, Vanessa. We need to be, Natasha, we need to be very innovative. You cannot put new wine in old wineskin. It's going to burst. So we need to have people thinking outside the box, thinking very innovative, willing to step up and accept the challenges, willing to forgive past mistakes and work together.
Yeah, and I think that stems from a general misunderstanding among us civilians. I have to say us because I am one. Even though I have a husband who's in the military, I have a brother who was in the military. But the understanding of civilians of what persons in the military actually do, because there's this talk about soldiers just shining boots down in Tetron and Coast Guardsmen just liming on the sea and enjoying, sailing out on the sea, and not understanding what being in any of these formations, what it entails, the work, the skills that you learn, and how you can contribute to society, not just while you're in uniform, but when you're out of uniform as well. There's a tremendous resource there that hasn't been tapped into, and you just mentioned a couple areas where you can stand in that gap. So I think it starts with being educated as to what in the armed forces really entails.
Natasha, let me just share this with you. Every profession that you could probably think about exists within the veterans. We have radiologists. We have a senior radiologist within Trinidad who is a veteran. So that's a profession that people don't normally think about. So I just threw that in there to let you know.
No, are you
skill set and service set at this time?
Yep.
No, well, of course, it goes without saying you are registered. Now, how can someone join MVOT? If someone's listening and say, okay, they like what they're hearing, how can someone join MVOT?
All right. I will give you the avenues. We are in the process of doing an app that is not out just yet. However, in the interim, we could email you the registration form, you fill it out, you scan it, and you send it back to us. Or if you do visit our headquarters, you will be able to fill out a form and you'll put it towards the database. But not only would you get that registration form, at the headquarters, we have a souvenir shop with a number of items that persons may wish to purchase, and that leads to generating income. Again, there's also our Heritage and Historical Center. There is information in there that you can't find anywhere else in Trinidad and Tobago at present.
Is this in St. Augustine?
So we're seeking to build on that center with the assistance of members of the public, veterans, and even Defense Force personnel, because it is for all of us.
Now, Major, is it this headquarters located in, because Natasha and I, we were taken on a tour by that time was Fleet Smiley and Mo, who took us to St. Augustine, and it's a well put together museum, lots of archives, beautifully well laid out. Is that the same headquarters we're talking about?
Yeah, it's the same headquarters as we said, but you say well put together and so on. We're not satisfied where we are there now. We need to build on it. We need the input of everybody. Because I was just looking at a document this morning I have there. That was the first, the serial 1, part 1 orders of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. It started with the 1st Battalion on the 23rd of July, 1962. And I'm privileged to have a copy of that particular order that I could share with you, and I will share with any other veteran, because we know knowledge is power. And I would like everybody and every veteran to be empowered.
Now, before we go on to the two very things, I
think this is what it looks like right now, and it starts with we have the commissioned officers, and we have people like Major General Brown inside there. We have 1001 Alexander S. He was from St. Lucia, and then we have the 1st Trinidadian at 1002 Elias Hamlet. So that information, I mean, is very important and very interesting. So all of that you could find at the Heritage and Historical Center.
Yes, and as you mentioned, these, historical artifacts, basically, it reminds me of the work that we try to do in terms of speaking with persons who were involved in the 1970 rebellion and were involved in the 1990 insurrection as well. And those significant events in the history of the country in which the military was involved, it's so important for us to document the stories of those who were there and to preserve that history for future generations. Because there was, when we did that 1970 series, there were so many people who, granted, were not alive at the time, but who did not know that this happened. in Trinidad and Tobago's history and the role that the Coast Guard played in preventing that contingent from leaving Tetron? And how committed are you as an organization then to preserving and telling those kinds of histories?
We are supporting all information. Everyone who wants to bring credible information to the table, we are here to support. We are also seeking assistance to have that processed. We know there's a lot of technology out there. So the institutions, just as you spoke to 1970 and 1990, we've preserved the sovereignty and democracy of the state on 2 occasions that stands out. We would have done so on many other occasions that we say has been highlighted to the extent. Corporate Trinidad and Tobago could function with a measure of ease today because democracy was preserved. You wouldn't wish to think what here would be like for business or any type of commercial activity if democracy in a state isn't preserved. And that is why we have corporate Trinidad and Tobago now acknowledging our service and willing to offer discounts to veterans and their families as a form of saying thank you for your service. So that we seek to encourage that, and we seek to welcome the information, and we seek assistance in having the information processed as quickly as possible and as detailed as possible.
Now, Major,
if we get that done in a soft copy form, you know, we'll save on space, because when you looked at the historical center upstairs, you know, we cramped for space. With more information coming in, we have to find ways and means of condensing that information, but also not losing the value and essence of it.
Now, Major, we're coming to the bottom of the hour, and we wanted to touch on 2 things that we know that you're near and dear to your heart, especially, and this is the indexation of pension for military veterans, of course, and the receipt of the NIS benefits. You know, how is the receipt of the NIS benefit at the age of 60 impacting veterans of the military? I know this has been a concern even for people outside of the military, but we're dealing with the military here. First of all, indexation of pension for veterans. How is that?
All right. Just before, I think the NIS part is shorter, so let me treat with it. At the rank of corporal and below, you leave the force at age 45. That gives you a 15-year window before you get to 60. And our research has shown that we have somewhere between 21 and 23% of veterans passing away before they actually get to that age.
Correct.
Right. And now with the advent of the pandemic, COVID-19 and its and its variants, you know that percentage is going to go up. So that treats with us. But we are unique. We are one of the only institutions of the state that we have people leaving so early. And our arrangements haven't been revisited seriously. No one has taken a serious look at it, right? So it pains me. So let me just move to the pension. 0.3% of the defense force, 0.3 of 1% goes to age 45, 4% to age 50, and 95.7% leaves under the age of 47 or 47 and under, right? There are past CDSs whose pension, I would tell you, that hovers in the vicinity of $4,000. We remember they would have served way back in the 60s, some still alive. And they would have assisted in preserving the democracy on 2 occasions. Why must we treat our hero? Explained and expounded in the Calypso. It hurt my heart. Some people thrive, live extravagant lives because we preserved the democracy here. And what hurts even more is the small number. We have approximately 1,800 pensioners because we know it's after 20 years you're looking at a pension, and 26 and two-thirds years for full pension, which amounts to 2/3 of your final base salary. But when you look at dependent relatives, they're just about 350 something dependent. I say approximately at this time. So when you add that together, you're looking about 2,200. We will be seriously approaching the Minister of Finance on this. You're leaving early. Then we're the only entity in the state that 5.5% of our salaries when we serve were taken and placed in the consolidated fund. We didn't have the opportunity to reap the benefits when high interest rates were being paid to certain funds, and there was secured funds at the time. That was a secure rate at the time. It went into the consolidated fund and comes out. So a soldier leaving under 10 years was, I keep saying soldier because I came from that arm, but the serviceman who leaves under 10 years leaves with his contribution plus 4%. The person who leaves between 10 years and 19 years and 11 months leaves with 1 month's service, one month's pay for every completed year of service. He's not getting a pension. And then after that, it's calculated by a formula, which, as you say, doesn't treat with the cost of living. And yet again, I say, God, why do we treat our heroes so? And as I said, many has gone before, but the MVOT is reaching out. We're willing to partner with all to see servicemen get their just due. There are those who are just on the brink of becoming veterans. They have an opportunity to contribute at this time. We hope the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the leading members within the cabinet look upon this situation seriously. Because, as I said, when everybody was heading home, we was out there to preserve the democracy of this country. And not only on the insurrection side, when there are disasters and crises, we even assist regionally. So we have people leaving the borders of our shore to go outside there. And as I said, we recently got the concession to have our veterans boarding as priority on international flights. We're looking to have for domestic flights. But when I travel based on my veteran's ID card, I get priority boarding on those international airlines. It should not have taken this long. However, we are very grateful. But as I said before, the Bible, you know what the Bible says about it? Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. And I don't think our country is an ungrateful country. I view my citizens as very grateful. But as I said before, they just don't know. But now that they know, I embrace the future with great optimism. Because our movement, the MVOT, we rely heavily on the grace of God for direction. And I thank Almighty God this morning for keeping us together, keeping us strong, despite the adversity. So we don't only rely, or we seek less to rely on our physical and academic capabilities, but we rely heavily on the grace of God. And who God bless, no man curse.
Major, you know, I wanna add to that with the NIS. And it's really sad, it's really unfortunate. I mean, I could use all the adjectives to describe the fact that people actually die. You know, there are so many veterans who passed away without receiving their grant or their pension. There was one lady who told me that her husband died the day before they checked him, waiting years for it. And I would like the National Insurance Board, you know, to at least give the public an explanation as to why. Because I'm experiencing it right now, and the only thing I could hand it to them is their staff, very courteous on Rice Road. That's where I went. Very courteous, very helpful. But that's where it ends. And you cannot get an explanation as to when you were serving every month, this contribution, you know, was deducted. But then time now to reap the benefit, you have to wait years, and some people die without even getting theirs. And I really, really wish that they would step up their game where that is concerned. It's really annoying.
God, we intend to pay close attention to the record keeping because every service person, just having paid 750 contribution, that takes you just about 13 and a half years. So we should have that alarm bell ringing. Hey, at 13 and a half years, all these people passing that, you start putting things in place. If you fail to prepare, you got to prepare to fail. And I would like us now, forget about the past. We cannot go back and treat with anything in the rearview mirror right now. Today is a new day, God. Today being the 6th day of February 2022. We forgive for everything that happened in the past. Let's have a new beginning. Let's move forward together, right? And we'll all benefit because every single serving person will eventually become a veteran. And people have different levels of influence within society on things that happen. God, you knew. I stood in a kitchen with a veteran and he was speaking to you on the phone. He's now dead.
Yes.
And he asked, I could call his name. His name is Mr. Andre Redman. And tell viewers what he asked you. God, I may get a bit emotional here. But tell the viewing public what Mr. Andre Redman asked you.
he referred to you as his near and dear friend, and he asked about, I know he asked me, do you remember Mr. Fletcher? I said yes, and he was so moved to speak about the contribution that he wants to continue to make and support of the military veterans of Trinidad and Tobago. And I know you will get emotional where this is concerned, but I was part of that conversation. You're correct.
And I would like to say thanks to the institution that he was employed with.
Yes.
We are actually in discussion with them to have a strategic partnership to build together as we seek to address matters as it pertains to the environment, as it pertains to youth development and medical support for veterans. He was very passionate about that. I will tell you straight. And he said, hey, no matter what happens, he was busy trying to say, Fletcher, carry that home.
Yes.
Ensure we get an ambulance.
Yes. And I know, I was speaking to Mr. Gantum and all those at the Guardian group, they're really excited about being in support of the MVOT and, to acknowledge his wish before he passed. Folks, let's take a break. Major, give you an opportunity to drink some water and calm. I know you got a little emotional there, but thank you very much for your passion for wanting to make a difference. Sergeant Monteith, Fleet Chief Petty Officer Thomas, stay right there, get a drink of water. We'll be back. And
we'll take your questions and your calls at 622.
Those of you listening,
3937.
If you wish to ask a question of this lady and gentlemen, please, you can get the opportunity when we return. Stay right there, folks.
Thank you for calling the Counter-Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. How may I help you?
The Trinidad and Tobago's Counter-Trafficking Unit, also called the CTU, was established through an Act of Parliament, the Trafficking in Persons Act, Chapter 1210, or the TIPS Act. We are a specialized, multidimensional, civilian-led agency under the Ministry of National Security, responsible for the daily operations of the counter-trafficking response of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We implement government policies developed by the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, effective identification of victims and witnesses, prevention of trafficking, protection and prosecution, all through effective partnerships. We also operate a toll-free anonymous hotline, 800-4288 for CTU, where the public can report possible cases of human trafficking. We screen and interview persons to identify possible victims of trafficking. We refer identified victims to appropriate agencies for support and care. Specially trained, positively vetted police officers working in the CTU gather evidence, investigate, and prosecute human trafficking cases. In keeping with our public education mandate, we also deliver training to our many stakeholders and partners. We collaborate with local, regional, and international organizations, NGOs, churches, and faith-based organizations to educate and warn the public on how to recognize human trafficking. We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Eye on Dependency will be a morning show in 2022.
That's right. Eye on Dependency marks 20 years on the air. We're taking our groundbreaking brand of radio to a whole new audience. From the team that took you inside prisons in the UK.
I was being held and charged for conspiracy to import cocaine into the UK.
We spoke with men and women who have paid for their crimes.
They didn't tell me if I bring him back and I get catch, I'll get 14 years imprisonment. They didn't say that.
We brought you the glamour of feature film.
I do have a package to drop off in Trinidad.
For you, Alejandro, anything.
I will pay you each 5,000 euros.
And the squalor of death row.
I said come for us from a case in the High Court in Port of Spain, and it was and come and get and pin from the gate.
And of course, the testimonies of men and women with drug use disorders.
I was quite devastated and got involved with the wrong company.
The man who I used to deal with, he gave me a job to drive him around. That's to go and buy cocaine and smoke cocaine.
From Toronto to London, New York to Los Angeles, Scarborough to Point Fortin, and everywhere in between, Eye on Dependency has been your source for drug information. Join us as we move to Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Don't miss Eye on Dependency. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch the live stream on Facebook and YouTube. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories. We change lives. We change lives.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. It's 11:40, and we have major news coming up at 12, and we are speaking with 3 retired service personnel: retired Sergeant Monty, retired Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and Major Fletcher. Sergeant Monty, let's come back to you for a minute, and let me just drive home this point. There are a number of, and I heard it just a couple of months ago, where people, spouses, they just don't understand when they get married to someone who's serving in the armed forces, whether it be police, prison, but more so the defense force. There's something required of them that they must understand and support, and some of them don't. Some of them actually lose their mind when they're like a camp confined, and husband cannot come home. And, they have to, now with the crime situation escalating, where soldiers are required to work more with police officers. How do we get members of the public and spouses and girlfriends to understand that this is part of the package? You sign on, you become a member. Keeping in mind that when they put out the advertisement, the Defense Force looking for single personnel between the ages of 18 to 25. They won't turn you away if you're married, but how deeper can we go with this level of getting people to accept this fact?
I think the onus is really on the welfare department to sensitize spouses in terms of what they're getting into, right? Just having somebody just sign on and that's it. When they know that people will get married, some people are married is not enough. And therefore, welfare needs to up their game. Yes, they have been trying, but there's also a bigger picture. And sometimes we see this impacting the marriages, a lot of failed marriages, because of the fact that spouses cannot come to terms with a serviceman saying, hey, they have to work a 48, or they have to, they can't confine, they can't come home for a week, which has happened to me already, right? 7 days in camp because of a missing weapon or some other thing. And how do you explain that to them, a civilian, if they don't understand what's going on? And a lot of them don't believe, right? So, in other words, you can't leave people's personal lives the chance and feel that it's not important. Everything is important because that is the support system that the soldier or serviceman gets to come and function responsibly.
That's some brothers who. Yes, Aunt. As well, you know, we're having a little in and out with the technology here for a minute. But you're right. It's people complain, and Natasha and I had this conversation, and about, you know, yes, you understand. Oh, I love you, and I understand the job you're doing. But from the time the pressure turn on, they start to complain, start to call the camp and complain. And when my husband ain't coming home, and how you have my son confined, Mr. Thomas,
you have to know how to explain to your spouse what the job that you do in a way that
But they know what else they need to explain.
No, well, there's more than just well, you have to break it down to civilian.
Mr. Thomas, how did your family deal with this, Mr. Thomas? You served for a very long time. How did your family understand and deal with this?
Well, up till now, I am quite sure that my wife do not understand what 1 in 4 means. She couldn't understand. I just came from a patrol, and as you land on the jetty, the duty petty officer is there telling you, well, you're on in 15 minutes. So you have to go and work a ship sentry or a station sentry or something like that, and not go home. Sometime in the evening, you hear the pipe, clear lower decks, all hands to muster. There will be no leave until further notice. In those days, we didn't have a cell phone, so it was extra difficult for the spouses. And everybody trying to get through on that little switchboard that was giving really trouble at that point in time. And they couldn't understand it. At one point in time, my wife used to drive down inside the stables to see if what they tell her is the truth.
Oh, Lord.
But, you know.
Oh, Lord. And Guards and Natasha, that's the reason why we are including the spousal league, right? We are trying to say to them that even after their husbands, their wives have left, we see them, we see their importance, and we are thanking them. And we're still asking them to come on board, to be a part of our association, be a part of our group, and let's build together. Maybe, you know, their husbands at the time, they did not get that opportunity to have somebody else seek their interests. But it's our duty as veterans not to think selfishly, but also to think for people who are coming, because everybody will be veterans at some point.
No,
and we intend to pave the way for veterans.
Right. Now, before we go to the major,
we need the spouse through the spousal league to be a part of it.
Yes.
And Natasha, we asking you to be there as well.
Well, I mean, well, yes, I guess as the spouse of a veteran, yeah, maybe.
No, you see,
I mean,
and here was the irony of it, folks. Here was the irony of the second part of this. When they retire now, I remember deceased Mal Campbell wife meeting me at a time and saying, "All you nothing for that man to do, boy. That man home and only terrorizing the children and he pulling it and the children can't even leave their bed on bed. So 1 minute they want you home, and next minute when you're home now, they complaining that you're home too much and you're running the house like an army camp and you feel in stubbles and you can't talk to the children, so you feel in the army and now they want you home, and then when you're home now they find you home too much." Let's take a call now. Let's take a call. Yes, Major, we have a call for you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, we have a call for you. Hold on, Major. Hold on one second. We have a call for you. Hello, morning.
And I totally agree in terms of having assistance for the family and especially the children.
Yes.
I remember my father, well, a retired fleet chief, he's deceased now. And from 1970, I remember not seeing my father for days and weeks. And when he came home, it was very traumatic. And when he retired, it took a while for him to what should I say, come down to nature, to readjust and not be that, military person.
Yes.
So it's really important, and the reason why family, we don't understand, because when they come home, they leave it at the door. There's no discussion or very little discussion of what goes on the base, what goes on in Stobles. So, there's a disconnect. And when they retire, it takes a while. It took a while for my father to tell me all these stories. And I mean, there were so many stories that, that I enjoyed and the experience. But it's very important for the integration, not only for the wives, but also for the children.
Correct,
Yes,
ma'am.
well
Thank you so
said.
much. Well
Thank
said.
you.
Well said. Hello, good morning. Major, you wanted to say something
jump in
quickly before we take the next call.
That's why I say life is all about balance. And when you spoke about him not coming, the MVOT is an avenue to bring some sort of balance. So the spouses will reach out to us, and we'll always have work for both spouses to come join us, work together, we chat, we have discussion, we have avenue and counseling sessions, and people to facilitate discussion, to engage you on these issues. Talk about it. This is the time to talk about it. Be open, be candid, right? Because we all about support here now.
622-3937.
Yes,
Let's
and
hope you could
I
take
can attest to the need for certain veterans to keep their hands and brains occupied constructively, because the gentleman beside me has built an entire backyard gym for his fitness regime. So I know. Good morning,
Hello,
caller.
hello, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I want to thank all the veterans for their service to Trinidad and Tobago. I want to tell you all a million thanks. You all have done yeoman service to this country.
Yes.
I don't have a brother or father or so who was in the army or the Coast Guard and so on, but I have cousins and so who was Coast Guard, commander, they reached commander, Coast Guard, and in the army and so on. So I want to thank you all from the bottom. So you have a lot of people out here who are grateful for your service, and whatever help that the private sector, the public sector can offer to you all to enhance your living conditions, I think is worthy. And I too will join and lift my voice. I'm on board and assist you all.
Yes.
Blessings and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much. Thank you
very
for
much.
that. Because that hasn't been said yet on the program. So yes, we do thank you for your service. I know that's something that we generally hear from American servicemen. Whenever you meet someone, you say thank you for your service.
Yes.
I think that is something a practice we need to get into here as well.
That hardly happens here. You don't hear that much here. Thank you for your service. You don't hear that much. And people tend to think that all soldiers and sailors do is just eat, sleep, and do nothing.
Yes.
And they don't understand. Well, I mean, when somebody can say, why you're calling them veteran and they never fought a war, you should understand where we are. We need more public education on the lives of service personnel.
Agreed.
Major, how did your family deal with, you as a serving member at the time, and how were you able to manage and balance the two?
Luckily for me, my father-in-law in the West India Regiment, so that assisted a bit, but it requires a lot of dialogue. It requires a lot of openness, sharing of information where you could share, because there's some confidential information you can't even share with your spouse.
Yeah.
However, that dialogue and that it must be left open for continuous dialogue between spouses, even between spouses and other spouses. And we're not talking about chatting about people's personal affairs here. We're talking about real mutual support, reaching out to a fellow husband, a fellow wife, see what's going on. You're not there to carry news, you're there to support, right? And our society where that is concerned. But one must understand, we must use language and all the technology available to us right now to provide that support. See, back then, we talking 70s, didn't have cell phones and so on. There's so much technology available for spouses to keep in contact with one another. You could actually see certain things where they are right now. And that level of support and communication is critical moving ahead, because I don't see things getting easier in the world. Things are going to become more challenging. But the more we support one another, the more we love one another, the more we are there for one another as brothers and sisters. And I will tell you this, we coined the phrase in 1988 batch. That is brothers, always there, caring, helping, batch, BATCH. Right, that was coined by 8802, and pleasant good morning to the batch 8802 and intake 31 of the Coast Guard, because we trained together and we passed out together. And we live that now. We continue to work on it. Not everybody is on board, but every day that comes gives us a new opportunity to build. So if every batch could build like that, it will augur well for the future, because batch is a very tight-knit thing. So if we could start from there, that's a good footing.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we coming closer to the end of our program, and I just want to, before we do that and give you a final say and parting words, we'd like to add this to the list too as well, the human trafficking. And Shortman have an image to put up for us.
Yes.
And I know you all should start thinking about this part of our landscape too. A man charged with human trafficking appeared before the Chaguanas Magistrate Court on Wednesday, 2 February 2022. He had been remanded in custody, and court matter was adjourned to Monday, 7 February 2022. The suspect was charged following an operation conducted on Friday, 31st December 2021, led by the Counter-Trafficking Unit in collaboration with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Guard and Emergency Branch, Special Operations Response Team, and Crime Scene Investigations Unit, Interagency Task Force, and TNT Immigration Division. That exercise resulted in the rescue of 27 Latin American women. The accused, Mr. Samuel Weeks, age 44 of Duke Street, Port of Spain, was arrested by Special Investigations Task Force on 20th January at the Piaco International Airport while attempting to leave the country, and subsequently charged Mr. Weeks with trafficking in persons, rape, and being a gang leader. Now, this is so amazing, this kind of work that all of these agencies coming together to do. And, at some point we hope that the veterans would make themselves or avail themselves of in this department of, studying and teaching in the different communities that you plan to reach to, awareness of human trafficking, because it's part of our landscape that we have to keep on the front burner. So, folks, Sergeant, any closing comments from you before we go? We have major news at 12, so you keep it short. Look at the time. So,
give us a minute.
You have a minute to give us your closing remarks.
What I'd like to say is we like to extend get well greetings to Mr. Romel Blackman, who is not well at this time, a veteran, and we wish him a speedy recovery. And we'd also like to just send out birthday greetings to 2 women of the Spousal League, the MVOD Spousal League. Happy birthday to Miss Lampkin and Miss Villarreal.
Thank you.
Nice people. Yes.
Fleet Chief, a minute
Fleet Chief.
for your closing remarks.
So Cecil Thomas.
We have spoken about a lot of things today, but what I want to remind the general public about is that what started off in 1967. Remember, the Defense Force took part in these operations. 1, the Hurricane Flora in Tobago, 69, the bus strike, the Black Ball Revolution in 1970, the sugar crisis in 72, post office strike, the gas crisis, the attempted coup in 1990, the Haiti earthquake, the oil spill in Tobago, fish kill in the Gulf of Paria, water crisis, volcano eruption in St. Vincent, and oil spills in the Gulf of Paria on several occasions. It is that we have kept the stability of this country, not that we were not in a war as such, but we were in a war situation. And if these people who are now outside here did not stabilize Trinidad and Tobago, we will not be enjoying the Trinidad and Tobago that we have at this point in time.
Yes.
Correct.
I want you to keep that in mind, that Tobago corporate as well as other citizens. Because when we had a burnt out Port of Spain, it's because of the Defense Force that they were able to rebuild the town, and so that we could get back into business and things running as normal.
Right.
So
I'd like to say good morning to retired Colonel Weldell Solandi, Esther Daniel, Gary Garcia, Linus Haynes. We have lots of veterans online here this morning. So we thank you all for joining the program. And there was a comment from a lady who said she thanked us for this program because she looked at Defense Force personnel as marching boots. But now listening to this program this morning, she has a better appreciation.
And the respect and admiration for the military, and she empathizes with veterans who are disadvantaged.
Yes, so gentlemen and lady, you all made a very important mark here this morning. Major, closing remarks. Major?
Yeah, Gata, we covered a lot this morning, Gata, Natasha, but we have a lot more to cover. I hope we are invited back to share with the nation. But in parting, I want to encourage Trinidad and Tobago, love your neighbor like yourself, live simple lives, love your God, and love your family.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well said, short and sweet.
To everyone at the team at MVOT, thank you very much for your service and for your continuing work to improve the lives of veterans in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, and you all can access, folks, at the end of the program. You can go to our Facebook page and you will see all the lovely comments and questions that you all can continue to answer. And for those who didn't get a chance to get their question in, but we thank you once again. Next week, Sunday, folks, we have a very interesting program for you in light of the Sexual Offences Act. And we're going to be speaking the bill, yes, and we're going to be speaking with 2 women whose husbands, they live in the United States, one in Iowa, one in Connecticut, but their husbands are on the Sexual Offenders Registry. Now, we've been calling for that here. We'd like you to hear everything about the Sexual Offenders Registry and their experience, and they're willing to speak to us. They will be joining us next Sunday, God's willing.
Your mind may change about whether we have one or not.
Yes, your mind may change about having a Sexual Offenders Registry here. So, folks, Salmonte, Fleet Chief Petty Officer Cecil Thomas, and retired Major, God bless you all. All the best for MVOT going forward, and keep the flag flying. Take care. God bless. Talk to you again.
Thank you for having us, God.
Thank you.
And Natasha.
You're welcome. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Good
All
afternoon.
right, folks, that's it for us.
Major
Cameron,
news at noon up next.
Cameron is here, and of course, we'll be joined by news presenter for major news at 12. Take care, folks. Be safe. Have a great day.
This is reality radio at its best. Eye on Dependency on I-95.5 FM.
Broadcasting from Port of